Yo, what is up, guys? It's your boy DJ. We're back here on the Rush Hour YGO channel for some more deck profiles for you. Let's go! Whee! I know it's been forever, but it's time. At least I'm back. Austin is he's living his life. That's it's not a bad thing. I'm just saying he's just living his life. So anyway, we're here. One half is here, and we're just gonna jump right into it. We got my version of the Dark World deck profile for OCG right now, and let me. I know this. It says TCG for 517, but I mostly play TCG anyway. But you know we gotta test this stuff in OCG. But I'm excited. Like I said, last time we did the pod, the Dark World support was announced, and ever since I've been excited for it. So I've been following this religiously to figure out what is the most optimal deck, and we'll be getting our version, the TCG version of the Dark World structure deck rework in December, which is 4 months away. Pain is all I know. But you know what's not pain? This deck. So we're just going to jump right into just discussing Dark World and really the kind of shenanigans you can get into with this deck. So first off, we should, those of you who don't know, Dark World is a Fiend discard deck. So a lot of your mechanics, a lot of your card effects that you will get in this, you get effects by just discarding them. But the difference is you have to be careful because it has to be an optional discard and not a discard for cost. So cards that discard for cost, like Super Poly that we have here, you won't get your Dark World effects off. Or cards like Nightmare Unicorn, you won't get your card effects off. And similarly, Nightmare Phoenix and all that. But cards that do activate your Dark World card effects, are cards like Card Destruction, Dark World Dealings, the danger cards, and you know their own Dark World cards, Dark World Library, Dark Smog, which isn't it's technically not a Dark World card, but it is. That's what it's for. And so yeah, so that's really like the basics that you want to do. And why this is like an OG version of a hand loop deck. Because so your main monster cards, your high level monsters, your Rainbow, the new Rainbow Supreme, Overlord of the Dark, and Grapple, both of them can return Dark World cards on the field back to your hand. And then since most of these cards effects are infinite, like Snow, Silva, and Grappa, and Rainbow, along with not Pearl but Cerulli, you can infinitely use their card effects. So you can, and we'll get to it. You know what? We're good. We're just gonna get to it right now. So we're just gonna talk about probably your most important card in this deck is right here, Snow Unlight of the Dark World. This card is absolutely busted. This card is discarded by a card effect. If it was discarded from your hand to the graveyard by an opponent's card effect, comma, you can target one card in your opponent's graveyard, add one Dark World from your deck to your hand, comma, then special summon the target, if any, in face-up defense position. So, when Snow Unlight is discarded by your opponent's card effect, you can target one card in their graveyard and put it on your side of the field, along with its other effect, where if it's just discarded from the hand to the graveyard, you get to search for a Dark World card. I did the math because this is my second time recording this video. One Snow gives you access to 27 cards to search for, and that's over half your deck. So, yeah, no, this is like the best card in the game because so a lot of what this deck does is really just hand looping and abusing Snow because its effect is not once per turn. And a lot of these Dark World cards are fairly potent. Snow gives you a search for your level 8. There's cards that give you searches for level 8 Fiends. Snow can just do that for you if you're not running those like I am. Snow also gives you access to cards like Dark World Ascension, which is one of the best cards to come out from this set. It starts itself this card in the graveyard is a starter, and it does a lot of shenanigans for a fusion card. Along with that, gives you access to Dark World Library, treasure to the Dark World, which is once per turn. Thank God. But really, pretty much anything that you want, that you can need in any particular situation, this Snow Unlight of the Dark World, her uninterrupted effect, literally will give you what you want. So, this card is crazy, and especially in combination with its secondary effect, if you can actually get it off, and stealing a card from your opponent's graveyard, you got cards like the Zombie Vampire, which, if you use a monster with a level that's owned by your opponent, for the XYZ of this card, you can treat it as a level 8. So, you can really get away with just holding your opponent's monsters hostage. That's why I have triple attack, other than like draw 2 cards, so your opponent's hand, choose one to shuffle, all that. You know, it's pretty strong if you ask me. So, Snow, best card in this deck, hands down. Without Snow, Graph is cool and all, but without Snow, literally is one of your many backbones for this deck. Not only that, we got the new support card coming in from the OCG structured deck, Genta, Gateman of Dark World. If you can discard this card, add the Gates of the Dark World from your deck to your hand. If this card is banished and you control a Dark World card, you can special summon this card. You can only special summon Genta, Gatekeeper of Dark Worlds, once per turn. So, I've played a lot of Dark World. Like, I've played a lot of Dark World. You don't understand. I put more work into this deck than I put into my Soul Stone deck, and my Soul Stone deck is freaking crazy. And I put more work into this deck than I've put into my Chaos Punk deck, which is also schnuts. Like, I've put in time and effort into this deck. Like, I will lab this deck out every day, at least two or three times a day, just to like mess around with the ratios and figure out, and just learning this deck, because there's still a lot that you can do with this deck. That you can easily, like, it's straightforward, but there's so many different micro interactions that you can do that if you mess up can put you in a worse position. I mean, you can say that about any deck, but this deck really, you can show real potential if you know what you're doing. And Gateman being added to this deck solves one of the biggest problems from this deck. So we're gonna look at Gates of the Dark World. So Gates of the Dark World, all Fiend monsters you control gain 300 attack and defense. Once per turn, banish one Fiend type monster from your graveyard, discard a Fiend monster, then draw a card. Gates of the Dark World, by the way, if you don't know, you can also activate it. If you have a Gates, activate its effect and play a second one, you can activate the second one's effect. So, cool. Now, what happens is, when you have Gates of the Dark World, especially if you searched it off like a Terraform or something, Gates' biggest issue is this line right here. You can banish one Fiend type monster from your graveyard. And a lot of times, especially if you're going first, you don't have a Fiend type card in your graveyard. At least not at the start. So what Genta solves and resolves the biggest issue, not only is it a Terraform, it lets you search for your field spell, but it also just puts a Fiend monster in the graveyard right away. And even if it gets ashed or whatever, you still have that Fiend in the graveyard. So when you eventually activate Gates, you can just banish it, and since Gates of Dark World is a Dark World card, you can special summon it back onto the field. Like, if this line of text was not, you can only special summon Genta Gatekeeper once per turn, was not there, this card would be the best card in the deck. 100%, hands down. This card would be absolutely broken, and you could put it in so many other decks, even if you weren't running Dark World itself. But they have to put that line of text there, just to let you know. So, what I like to do is, not only does Genta give you your field spell, but once you use both of its effects, It's an easy fiend throwaway card for a lot of card effects that require cost, i.e., Super Poly or your Nightmare cards. It is very easy to just throw this card away into the graveyard because you don't need it right away, and then just get it back because you can banish it and bring it back. Cards nuts. This is, and that's why I played 3 of them. You might ask why I only play 2 field spells and 3 Gentas. You want to see Genta as much as you can in this deck because it gives you a straight link into gates. So I want to see them as much as I can, and with the amount of draw power that you can get outside of just straight searching, using I don't want to see 3 gates. I really don't. If I activate a card effect to draw 2 and I already have a gates in my hand and I draw into another gates, I really am just gonna sit there like, man, I wish this was anything else. Which is why I run 2 of them. So that's why it's honestly, I forgot to say, yeah, no, you should be running 3 snows. Anyway, 3 snows is chef's kiss. Back to what I was saying. So Genta, it's super powerful. That's all there needs to say about this. Is Genta is honestly, while it's not, I was really debating this whether I was gonna say Snow or Genta, but it comes down to Snow. Snow is just the best, but Genta is really close up there for what you need to do. If we're gonna talk about our level 8s, we have 4 level 8s in here. We have Rainbow Supreme Overlord of Darkworld. Now, with Rainbow, I will say this. Cool. So, I don't. That was weird. Anyway, back to Rainbow. So, Rainbow, card fit, you can special summon this card by returning 1 level 7 Darkworld monster to your hand. Thank God it says that, because if it's at level 8, you can just loop Grapha back to your hand, which would be real stupid. But don't worry, you can still loop Grapha back to your hand. So this, the wording doesn't matter for this. But anyway, you can special summon this card by returning 1 level 7 and lower Darkworld monster you control to the hand. This card is discarded by card effect. Can add a level 5 or higher Darkworld monster from your deck to your hand, except a Rainbow Supreme Overload. Then, if this card is discarded from your hand to the graveyard by a opponent's card effect, you can special summon 1 level 4 or lower Darkworld monster from your deck to the graveyard. Woo! Alright, so for this card specifically, I know I've seen lists that run 3 of these, and I've seen lists that run like 2. I actually just enjoy having this card at 1, because Rainbow is probably one of the more flexible cards in this deck. So the reason why I say that is not only can it bounce cards back, Graph is like the only target it cannot bounce back, but it can bounce back all your other Darkworld cards back to your hand, and it itself can be bounced back by Grapha. So if we look at Grapha, special summon by returning 1 Darkworld monster you control to the hand, except Grapha. Great. So yeah, no, they have to word it like, you can't just keep bouncing back Grapha. What the fuck? Anyway, and since this card since when you discard this card, it lets you search for any level 5 or higher, you can search all your Graphas, or you can search all your Silvas, and just get them immediately into rotation, so that there's less stuff that you have to worry about. So that's really, and even if Rainbow gets banished, you have ways to get it back. Like Trance Archfiend is a way to get it back. Let's see. There's something else here. Trance Archfiend can get it back. Pearl, if discarded by your opponent's card effect, can get it back. Darkworld Puppet, you can banish this card from the graveyard that target one card, targeting one of your banished fiend monsters, add it to the hand. You can only activate 1 Darkworld Puppet per turn. During the main phase, except the turn that this card was sent to the graveyard. Anyway, so you have ways to get this card back, which is why I only keep it at 1. And since it can't search for itself when discarded, I'm very happy with just adding Silvas to my hand, or adding Graphas to my hand, because when Graph is discarded, you can destroy a card on the field, and if discarded by your opponent's card effect, look at a random card in their hand, and if it is a monster, you can just straight up take it to your side of the field, bounce a Dark World card you control and then overlay it right into, you know him, you love him. I already mentioned him before, the Zombie Vampire. The extra deck. We'll get to the extra deck when we get there. But excuse me. That's really my main reason for just running these, like running this, because no matter what, even during your opponent's turn, if you have an effect that discards, like Dark World Punishment, you're just gonna get a Grapha back to your hand eventually. So or a Silva, which also punishes your opponent. So what do you care? That's why I'm running for the most part. Three Graphas. It's Grapha. This is the most iconic card in this deck, and I wouldn't even say, how do I say this? It's not the best card in your deck, but it's a beat stick. It is 100% a beat stick, and you get to destroy cards on the field by discarding this card. Thank God you can't loop it back into your hand. Yet. But yeah, no, Grapha is fairly straightforward. Discard it, pop one card on the field, discard it by opponent's card effect, pop another card on the field. No, pop a card on the field and look at a random card in their hand, and if it is a monster, you can just take it. Like, taking the monster is great, but even just seeing what what your opponent has in hand still gives you great information. So, and because both Grapha and Rainbow can special summon themselves back from the graveyard, they make great choices for your Link monsters. So yeah, it's pretty great. Anyway, next we have three Silvas. Oh, let me run it back to why I have three Graphas again. With three Graphas, side decking, you can just take out one of the Graphas because you really only need two. You could take out both the Graphas and run a Rock in instead, if you really want to. That's why I have the Rock in the side deck. So replace a Grapha for a Rock. You already have crazy amounts of draw power. A Rock will always... You can never go wrong with a Rock. Anyway. Silva, Warlord of the Dark World. Silva gets discarded, special summons itself from the graveyard. It's similar to Gold's effect. If we search up Dark World, not similar. These two are basically the same effect. But the reason why you run Silver over Gold is because Gold is, discard by opponent's card effect, target up to 2 cards your opponent controls, destroy them, which is cool. Or hear me out, you can return 2 cards, exactly 2 cards from your from their hand to the bottom of the deck in any order if this card is discarded by your opponent's card effect. So as much as I love destroying cards on the field, that's why I have Grapha. And Silva, really just shit. Silva just does what it does, and it special summons itself to the field, and that's a level 5, so it plays into my extra deck. Smile, and you can just bounce it back to your hand. Hey, more Silva power to you. So that's why we have 3 of them. Again, you can actually take out one of the Silvas again for 2 rocks, so you can take out 1 Grapha, one Silva for both your rocks down here, because you want to rock somebody's world as much as you can with this deck. And since they're both searchable off of Rainbow, or Rainbow, I guess that's how do you even, you know what, we'll figure that out later. It's a good choice. 3 Snows, best card in the game, best card in this deck. It's crazy. 3 Gentas, gas, cash money. You love to see them. I play two Bro Huntsman of the Dark World. It's a level 3, so it plays in combination with Tour Guide. But when it gets discarded, you get to draw a card. You already have a lot of draw power anyway, so you don't really need that many Bros. Especially when you have like on-command searches like Snow and Genta. The Bro is just kind of there to facilitate any extra draw. And if you draw 2, if it's discarded by your opponent, you can draw 2. So, it's great to have. What else we got? Pearl. I was heavily debating whether I wanted to play multiple Pearls in this deck, but as of right now, I shouldn't say at the end of the day. As of right now, because this could change at any point. I'm playing Pearl at 1. Because Pearl's effect, you can really only activate it once per turn. If this card is discarded, you can target one so eyes field. You can special summon one of your free monsters. You can only use oh no. I just found something out. It would seem is that Pearl's effect to special summon any fiend when it's discarded by your opponent's card effect. That's the only one that's once per turn. And then this discarded is as many times as you want. It's pretty sick nasty. But, you know. Cerulu, the Guru of the Dark World, and Pearl, the Hermit of the Dark World. And you can see that both their attack values and defense values are opposites. That's pretty cool. I just noticed that. But with Pearl, like I said, with Pearl, you're really just going to discard it to get your snow back onto the field, which is hot. Actually, that's not even true. You can get snow onto the field, or you can, if you have a Cerulu Guru in the graveyard, you can just put it on your opponent's side of the field to force you to discard again. So, this, I was heavily like, when this first came out and I read this, I was like, this is kind of mid. But as I start to use Pearl more and more, yeah, no, this card is actually pretty great. It does similar things to Charge It to the Dark World. If it just facilitates a special summon from the graveyard, because you can special summon any Dark World card from the graveyard, and if it's discarded by your opponent, you can special summon any fiend from your hand, graveyard, or bandage zone. So you just got options. Pearl, I see you, dog. I see you, big dog. But other than that, we got Cerulu, Guru of the Dark World. There's not much to say about this. This card is very straightforward. Actually, no, that's not true. I do have something to say about this. Discard, special summon to your opponent's side of the field. Yeah. Oh no, why would you give your opponent a free monster? It forces you to discard, and you get your bonus effects for all of these dudes. Because it's technically discarded by your opponent's card effect. And if you're really feeling spicy, you can force a triple attack and just draw 2 cards off of it. So, that's pretty hot. Going back into this, we're just going to talk about our one-ofs for monsters that we're running. As you can see, we've got a couple danger cards, a tour guide, an Ash, a Fabled Raven, and a Trance Archfiend. So, I want to talk about the Ash for the first part. So the reason you're gonna run a Ash is here's what happens a lot with this deck, and this is one of the deck's biggest humps to get over, is especially with these ratios, you don't want your deck to be too oversaturated with non-Dark World cards or ways to discard cards. So, there's a version of this deck where I was running 2 Ash Blossoms. Now, as I was going through and I was running I was doing like my full combo, my full like Dark World combo, Snow Unlight, Genta, draw 2, discard, and just like stacking up my hand advantage. I find for myself personally, this differs from person to person. I find that I personally dislike drawing into Ash Blossoms, because the minute that I draw into an Ash Blossom off an extra draw, say from like a bro, a lot of my combo is just done there, and I just have to hold that. Not only that, because in a different version of this, I used to run Drag Down to the Grave, which is another card that's great with Dark World. But with Ashes in your deck, it's very easy for someone to look at your hand, see that you have an Ash in hand, and then force your Ash discard. And I just find that Ash plus Drag Down is they just don't work well together. And I made the executive decision to play a singular Ash, because when I do draw it, it's bound to interrupt something, and I don't have to worry about it. And once it's discarded after I use its effect, I literally do not have to worry about that Ash for the rest of the game. Versus Drag Down, a lot of times I find that I just have too many good cards in hand that if I activated Drag Down, it it'd be worse off for me than for my opponent. So that's the main reason why I only run one Ash. However, I find that running two Drolls in this deck is actually more potent than running the Ashes, because you won't, there's a lot of decks out there that just add a bunch of cards to their hands, and limiting what they can add to their hand only helps against Dark World. Only helps to supplement Dark World than just having the Ash to interrupt some things. So that's why I have the two Drolls in that in the side deck, so I can just throw them in there wherever I need to. But for the main, that's why we really run one Ash. Another pretty decent card for this that I actually came across because I actually read the set list for the new Dark World deck is Danger Mothman. So reveal this card in your hand. Your opponent randomly chooses one card from your entire hand that you discard the chosen card. Then, if the discarded card was not Danger Mothman, special summon Danger Mothman from your hand and draw a card. If this card is discarded, you can have both players draw a card, then both players discard one card. So either way, Danger Mothman, whether it's discarded or not, is a non-Dark World version of Dark World Dealings. So no matter either effect you get from Danger Mothman is a dub. It is just a straight up dub because you can activate cards so you can activate all your Dark World cards and then you still get to draw, and that's a free ass level 4 on the field. I don't really use that many rank 4s in this deck. I really only play the one, but that's still a rank 4, and that can facilitate my my rank 1, and it is just an extender. So Mothman is just great. It can get Ash, of course, because it activates the draw, but still, it's still pretty decent. Trans Archfiend actually isn't too bad. It's kind of hit or miss. Like you can run Trans Archfiend if you want. If you don't want to, that it's fine too. One thing I will say about the Dark World deck, with its new facelift, you actually don't have to worry about normal summoning as much as you used to, because you can just spam special summons because you have so many cards available to you that can that just allow you to special summon a bunch of fiend monsters. So there will be times after you do a full combo and you think about what you want to do next, you can just normal summon the Trans Archfiend and then just discard a card. Or if you're wanting to start your combo, play Trans Archfiend, activates effect, discard, and then you kind of just keep it going. It's really, for the most part, I'm using Trans Archfiend for its target when it's destroyed and sent to the graveyard. You target one of your banished dark monsters and add that target to your hand. Fantastic card effect. But Trans Archfiend does facilitate a lot. Now, we want to talk about cards that are nuts. Dangerous Tsuchinoko? Question mark. Dangerous Tsuchinoko, reveal this card in your hand. Opponent randomly discards. Then if you discard the blah blah blah. If it was not Dangerous Tsuchinoko, special summon Danger, draw, and if you do, draw a card, and if this card is discarded, you can just special summon from the graveyard. So again, this is another card. There's a reason why it's limited to one. I kind of wish it wasn't, not gonna hold, but that's neither here nor there. With Danger Tsuchinoko, it's again, these two. I love that these two cards are right on top of each other. No matter what, it's just a dub. This gets a free card on the field, and another thing to remember is as long as it just discarded, it just special summons itself. So discarded off of Dark World Dealings, discarded off of Danger Mothman, literally anything, special summons itself, dude. It's pretty gas and pretty cash money. So not only that, Tour Guide is super underrated in this deck. Honestly, yeah, no, this card, it just does. It facilitates what you need it to do. legit tour guide in this deck is there for its sole purpose is to kind of bait out Ash. Legitimately, that is this card's entire purpose is to bait out Ash Blossom, because you can special summon a card from your deck, and if it gets the Ash Blossom bait, it's GG because all of you are free to just do whatever the fuck you want. Because like, if you ever think about it, right? If your opponent just like their first thing is they just raw normal summon tour guide, you're gonna Ash it. At some point, you're gonna Ash it, effect filler. You're gonna do something to stop this Ash, because tour guide spirals things out of control. And since you really only need one normal summon, and it doesn't matter, tour guide is another card that if you see it in your opening hand, just facilitates whatever you need it to. And if you do, I wouldn't say if you break, but if you don't get a hand as strong with tour guide, you can get a starter very easily with your hand. So it just solves a lot of things. Tour guide, we salute, we stand tour guide in this channel. That's my homegirl right there. And last but not least, Fabled Raven. This card is straightforward. Again, this is my third or fourth time saying it. Since you only really need to normal summon once, cards like Tour Guide, Trance Archfiend, and Fabled Raven are great normal summons. Fabled Raven, once per turn, discard any number of cards. If you do, this card gains 1 level and 400 attack for each discarded card until the end of this turn. So, you know, discard, if you discard 1, turn this to a level 3, discard Silva, that's an 8. 8 gives you Chaos Ruler. Crazy. Chaos Ruler is fucking busted. We know this. Chaos Ruler is so crazy. This card does whatever the fuck you want it to. Really. It just facilitates so much. Or, if you get, for the most part, you're just going to go Chaos Ruler most of the time. But you have Gorza, Tyrant of Thunder, that came out with Battle Chaos, which is also pretty good. During your opponent's main phase, you can target one effect monster on the field, discard a fiend, discard one monster, and if you do, negate that monster's effect until the end of this turn. So you do actually have a negate in the extra deck. And, you can only use the effect of Gorza. Only use this effect if Gorza, Tyrant of Thunder once per turn. If a fiend monster is sent from your hand to the graveyard, you can apply one of the following effects. Cannot be destroyed by battle, cannot be destroyed by opponent's card effects, your opponent cannot target this card with card effects. So, it's just, again, Gorza, super under the radar, but it's perfect for this deck. Not only does it give you a negate, but you can discard a fiend card and get extra guapo off of it. So, we're just big vibing. Alright, excellent. Excellente. We're back here, and we're just going to jump right into our spell cards. I talked a lot about our spells, so let's get our generic spells out of the way. Triple Attack, fantastic card. Again, reason why you only play one is because you don't want to oversaturate your deck with too many cards that don't allow you to discard. So, one Triple Attack is fine. You'll end up drawing into your one-ofs a lot in this deck. So, you know, that's why we have one. Triple Attack's effect, it's Triple Attack, man. It does what it do. Called by Ash 100%, well, and also Ghost Spell, both shaft this deck a lot. So, having one call, actually, let me preface this. Ghost Spell and Ash aren't actually that bad, because they're, especially if you discard multiple cards at the same time, you can chain block your cards very easily. You could chain block off of Genta off Gates. You can do a lot of that. So you can chain block these cards a lot, but when you don't have that available, it's Called by the Grave. It does what it needs it to do. Target a card in the graveyard, banish it, negate it for 2 turns. It's Called by, man. This card's gas. Foolish Burial. What do I have to say about Foolish Burial? Foolish Burial gets your Graph into the graveyard, gets your Rainbow into the graveyard. Hell, it even gets your Genta into the graveyard if you already control the Dark, or if you already have Gates in your hand. and you have Foolish Burial, why not just send Genta to the graveyard off of Foolish Burial and just get it back onto the field? Who cares? So, let's see what we got here. Card destruction. Let me say this. Card destruction is great. Let me take that back. The card destruction is on a very thin line. It is on a very thin line for me personally. Its effect is great. It's fantastic if you have it in your opening hand. But once you get deeper into your turns, there's a lot of times where I just don't want to see card destruction. On top of card destruction on activation can just straight up get ashed. That is like the one of the weakest points of this deck is that Ash Blossom exists. So be careful. Be very careful with this card and how you use it. So that's it for card destruction. Both players discard their entire hands, and then you all draw the same cards you discarded. Especially if you're going second and your opponent really only has like maybe 1 or 2 cards. Card destruction isn't really gonna affect them that much, but you can still pop off with a full hand card destruction. Allure of Darknesses give you... Actually, this is new. This is something new that I added to this deck. Where you don't really want to banish that many cards in this deck. However, with Allure of Darkness in combination with Genta, again, you just want to min-max Genta as much as you can, really. And as long as you control a Dark World card, Genta keeps coming back. You can just banish Genta, or let me say this: if you use both of Genta's effect and then you bounce it back to your hand, you can just banish Genta because it's another throwaway card for Allure of Darkness and just draw 2. So you don't really have to run the risk of banishing a card from your hand that you'd actually want. So, and having 2 of them ups the value because you're more often just gonna draw into an Allure of Darkness. It's never a bad card to draw into because you keep drawing. So that's why I have 2 of them here. 2 of them specifically for Genta. Or if I was feeling spicy, I don't know, I'd banish a Bro. Again, Bro is low prio anyway, and it just draws a card. So what I get from banishing, what I get from discarding this versus just drawing 2 off of this, I'll be all right with that. 2 charge into a Dark World. Charge into a Dark World. That is what it is called. I don't know why I'm having a stroke halfway through this. That's what it's called. This used to actually be a 1 charge and 1 Dark World Puppet. We'll talk a little bit about why I made this choice, and then we'll go into charge. So Dark World Puppet, target up to 3 cards in any graveyard, banish them, then discard a Fiend during your main phase, except the turn it was banished. Blah blah blah. You can target one of your banished Fiends. I have found, for me personally, this is my personal opinion, that Dark World Puppet does not offer enough value versus having to, for me, versus having 2 charged into the Dark World. Now, Dark World Puppet does have value because, first off, if you do not have a Fiend card in your hand, I mean, you can say that for both of them, for both charged into a Dark World and Dark World Puppet, you can't activate it. But getting rid of the 3 cards in any graveyard, for me, is just, it's whatever, dude. Of course, it works like DD Crow, but Dark World Puppet works better if you have information. So this is Dark World Puppet is definitely a game 2, game 3 in a match game 2, game 3 card, because you'll have the information and you'll know what cards you want to hit. So that's why I play 2 of these. Even though it's not once per turn, you can target any level 4 or lower Fiend monster, special summon it, then discard a Fiend. What's your best Fiend card in this deck? Snow Unlight of the Dark World. Just straight up. You can just bounce it back with Grapha, and you can just keep your turn going with having 2 of these. So I like to see these cards in my hand. Dark Ruler No More. What's to say about this? What's to say about Dark Ruler No More? Nothing. Legitimately nothing. One off, you'll happen to draw. You'll eventually draw into it unless you have it in your opening hand. Honestly, you can side deck into 3 more. Just put 3 Dark Ruler No Mores in your deck, and you'll be fine. Since this deck can just summon so many beat sticks out at once in one turn, and you really don't care about the giant rock, which is Nibiru. Hey man, Dark Ruler No More, turn off somebody's board and just destroy everything on the field. What are they gonna do? Nothing, really. What are they gonna do about it? 3 Dark World dealings. It's a Dark World card. It's probably your I shouldn't say better, but it just facilitates a lot of your combos. Both players draw a card and discard a card. It's a Dark World card. Works with other card effects to activate Dark World cards. Alright? It's Dark World dealings. I never really searched for Dark World dealings with Snow, but, you know, it's just a free card. It's a free discard, really. That's the reason why you use it. So, good to have. Dark World Ascension. Now, Dark World Ascension, this is a pretty interesting card. So, during the main phase, Fusion summon 1 Fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing Fusion. That is just a Fiend Fusion monster. By banishing materials mentioned on it from the field or graveyard. If summoning a Dark World Fusion monster this way, you can also discard monsters from your hand as material. During the main phase, if this card is in the graveyard, you can add it to your hand and discard 1 Dark World monster. This gives you access into Grapho Dragon Overlord of Dark World. Yeah, no. There was a version of this deck where I was running Super Foolish Barrel of Goods. Because if you want to talk about a card that is free, you point to Dark World Ascension. 100% of the time. If it's discarded, doesn't matter. You can just discard a Dark World monster from your hand and re-add it back to your hand. Then you can discard again for a fusion summon of a Dark World monster. Along with, you can also banish cards and discard for a Dark World monster. Like this, you only need 1 of these. You only need 1. And if it gets DD Crow, good on your opponent for DD Crowing it. Because it should be. And even if it's not, it's... No matter what, if this is in your graveyard, you always have a starter for your turn. So, you can run Super Foolish Burial of Goods with this card. If you didn't want to run Foolish Burial, either way is just a good choice. It's just a good choice. Next, this is what the last of the new support that got announced, Dark World Library. This card is once again, this Dark World Library solves one of the issues that Dark World has, where it's like sometimes you just need a free discard. Just need a straight up free ass discard. So, Dark World Library. During your main phase, you can discard 1 Dark World monster, and if you do, all Dark World monsters you currently control gain attack equal to the discarded monster's level times 100 until the end of this turn. If your monster, whose original type was Fiend, is discarded by the effect of a Dark World card or an opponent's card effect, you can discard 1 card, then draw 2 cards. You can only use each effect of Dark World Library once per turn. It should be mentioned that Dark World Library, you can't use Dark World Library's effect to activate its other effect to draw 2 cards. You have to have another Dark World, another Dark World monster. So you have to have a separate Dark World card to discard of original Fiend card for its effect to activate. But this is still great. Again, you bounce Snow back to your hand, right? With Grapha or Rainbow, or you bounce Rainbow back with Grapha, activate Dark World Library, discard a card. discard Rainbow, go for a search. Discard something else, or I should say, discard Snow. Search for a Dark World card that can discard, like Dark World dealings. Blam, discard, double discard. You have 3 cards. You have 3 cards in your hand from this one thing, man. Card is crazy. This card is actually crazy, and I should mention that extra up to 800 attack is nothing to scoff at. It's really not. This card's crazy. This card is really good, and again, it's something that the deck was missing, and this card, Dark World Library, does it. Gates, we already talked in depth about Gates. It's your main card. It does everything that you need to do. Alright. So, yeah, no. 2 Gates is fine. You don't want to run 3 of them because sometimes you just don't want to draw into Gates and you would rather draw into something else. So 2 gives you enough consistency that you will see it that you'll draw it often, but not often enough that it fucks you. Trap cards. Dark Smog. Once per turn. See, so here's why I run Dark Smog over main decking Darkwood Puppet. Yes, Darkwood Puppet is more active, but Dark Smog also does what Dark Puppet does. And I find that with this card specifically, it's just it's a continuous trap card. Just the continuous disruption that you can have off of Dark Smog, for me personally, holds more value than Dark World Puppet. That's really what it is. Unfortunate, it's not searchable because for some reason this card is Dark Smog and not Dark World Smog, but it's whatever. The other option that you would have for your continuous Dark World is Dark World Brainwashing, which is also pretty cool. But there are many iterations where I try to use this card, but I find that in situations where I don't have 3 or more cards in hand, this card does nothing, versus a Dark Smog can easily just interrupt somebody at any time. So that's personally why I use Dark Smog over Dark World Brainwashing and really any other Dark World trap card. I mean, you could run Gates, but that not being able to summon other monsters the turn you activate it is kind of like not cash money. Anyway, back to what I was going through. Goes in Match. I had Goes in Match in the side deck for a long time, and then I was you know what, fuck it, just put Goes in Match in the main deck. Because if your opponent let's say you go first, right? Let's say you lose the die roll, and your opponent says you're going first, right? You're gonna go second most of the time. You're better off going second. However, with Goes in Match and with Cyrilu, Guru of Dark World, if you just drop that on your opponent's field with Goes in Match up, they literally cannot do anything. They are locked into dark monsters. And if you're playing something that's very common, like Flunderies, or Splight, or Toads, or Telements. Well, Telements isn't really affected by this because most of them are dark, but you can pretty much just lock anybody out of anything until you deem it worthy for you to kill them. So that's why I main deck Goes in Match. And if they summon a bunch of monsters that have different types at once, for example, Soul Sword. Soul Sword has one of the worst matchups against this deck. Dark World shafts Soul Sword in every way possible. It just does. But like I was saying, with Goes in Match, normal summon Mo Ye, it activates effect, summons the token, you Goes in Match them, they're locked out of their extra deck. As long as Goes in Match is up. And that's something that they have to consider. Along that same vein, Skill Drain. Most, if not all of these effects, all of your Dark World effects, activate in the graveyard. So who's to say turning off their entire board doesn't just straight up help you? Who's to say it doesn't? That's why you just run a skill drain. Just fucking turn it off. And skill drain is being printed with this structure deck. So you think I'm not gonna buy 3 skill drain? You think I'm not gonna get 3 skill drains? What? That's why I have the extra skill drain in the side deck. This skill drain just abuses the fact that you can just turn off someone's board and you just don't care. Straight up, you just don't. Newest addition into the Dark world is Dark World Punishment. Another card that's really strong. When a monster would be normal summon or special summon while you have a fiend in your hand, not on the field, in your hand. Negate the summon, and if you do, destroy that monster. Then discard one fiend monster. If a Dark World monster you control will be destroyed by battle or opponent's card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard. You can only use each effect of Dark World Punishment once per turn. So, in a universe where you go first, and you have one Dark World Punishment set, no, that's GG, dog. That it's just GG, because the only thing that stops Dark World Punishment, the only thing that can counter a counter trap card is another counter trap card, is Solemn Judgment. And actually, no, Dark Bribe also too helps, but Dark Bribe is very high risk, high reward, because you're gonna give your opponent a free card off their spell a trap card negation. But outside of that, Dark World, who the fuck cares? Dark World Punishment legitimately stops a whole lot of shit. That's why I run 2 of them. You can just the fact that you can negate someone's normal summon or special summon while you have a fiend in your hand is ridiculous, because there's a lot of times where you will just have a fiend in hand. So keep that in mind. Cool. So we're just gonna quickly jump into our extra deck. I won't mull you over with the details. We already talked about Chaos Ruler and Gorza, Tyrant of Thunder. Great cards to have. We also talked about Zombie Vampire. You're mostly using its effect for you mill the top 4 cards of both decks, and then you get to special summon any monster that's sent to the graveyard by this effect. Very potent, very, very potent card effects with this. But let's start off with Grapha, Dragon Overlord of the Dark World. New extra deck monster that Dark World gets, which is pretty powerful. So the only thing you need for this is Grapha and 1 Dark monster. So again, it's a good super poly target. It's similar to like Fallen Albez. You can just abuse super poly with this. That's why I have at least 1 super poly in the extra deck. But when your opponent activates a normal spell or trap or a monster effect, you can make that monster's effect become your opponent discards 1 card. You can only use this effect of Grapha, Overlord of the Dark World once per turn. So this is like your this is a soft negate. And similar to what Ash does, since it doesn't actually say negate, it just negates card effects. So again, if you're going against like Moye or something, and they activate their effect, you can just be like, okay, no. And your opponent has to respect that you can just turn off. You can just change your opponent's monster effect or your opponent's card effect into your opponent discards a card, and then you get bonuses off of that. This card is very strong. If this future summon card and its owner's control leaves the field by an opponent's card effect, or by an opponent's card, not even card effect, special summon 1 Grapha, the Dragon Lord of the Dark World that is banished or in your graveyard. Then each player with a hand discards a card. So even if you don't have any cards in your hand, your opponent is still forced to discard a card off of this effect, and you can special summon Grapha back onto the field. And with Skill Drain, who cares? Their board is just turned off now. Alongside this, yeah, no, this card is extreme. This card is really good. I don't summon this card every duel, but whenever I get a chance to, it just does work. Starving Venom Dragon Again, another good super poly target. I actually have starving. You actually have an option here. Wings. All right, you actually have the choice between starving venom dragon, which if you don't know what starving venom dragon does, special summon it from the extra deck uses two face-up dart monsters on the field. You can target a level 5 or higher monster your opponent controls to the end phase. This card's name, blah blah blah, becomes that name. Then replace this card's effect with that one. This future summon card is destroyed. Destroy all your opponent's special summon monsters. Great card effect. Starving Venom Dragon is still one of my favorite cards in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! But if you don't want to run Starving Venom, you can also run Garu, Wings of Resonant Life, which is the newest, best super poly target that's out there right now. Because it's two monsters, same type, same attribute, but different names. Any battle damage your opponent takes from this is doubled. If this card is sent to the graveyard, draw a card. You're really just using it to just get rid of two cards on your opponent's field. Sword Soul, Shafted if Moye activates effect. Splight, Shafted if they special summon two monsters. Literally anything gets deleted by this card. And it's great in Dark World because it's a control deck, it's a control combo deck. And just stopping your opponent from playing the game, since you have so many resources to do it, it's just a great extra card to have, just to give you the extra oomph over the line. And really, the only reason why I don't have this card in this deck is because I can't play it, because this is a TCG only card as of right now. So once the sim updates and I can play it in the OCG again, you bet your ass I'm going to put this in here with Starving Venom. But anyway, chugging along, Chaos Ruler, Gorza. We're going to talk about our rank 8s, our two rank 8s. You can actually go without playing Hope Harbinger, the Harbinger Dragon Titanic Galaxy. But it's just a good extra negate to have. Negate spell cards or cards that activate already on the field. Gives you a lot of options. It gives you a lot of pressure, because it's a good first negate. We talked about Zombie Vampire and all of its usefulness in this deck. Super goated card. Oh, Dingirasu, the Orcus of the Evening Star. Card's nuts. Dingirasu is super underrated, even though Orcus isn't really a thing anymore. It just gives you protection, and it just gets rid of a card on the field. So you can kind of just run around and do whatever you want, and have that extra layer of protection on your end boards. You can very easily just kill somebody turn 2. We got DDD Marksman Kingtail. You're not really going to use its primary effect, but it's a rank 5 that only takes 2 level 5 monsters, and since Silva is searchable and super easy to get onto the field, there's a lot of times where you can just be like, alright, cool. Silva on the field, or Fabled Raven on the field, discard 3 cards, overlay these two, go into Marksman, and then immediately go into Divisor King Deus Machina, or Deus Machine X. Which is just like, hey man, activate a monster effect, detach 2, and once per chain, and I can just take it. The effect still resolves, but that monster is no longer on the field. So, and you get to activate it twice because you're not using Kingtail's effect for this. So, hey man, you might be like, well, why would you run it? But they're both fiends, and once we get to the Link monsters, it's just an extra layer of just power. Dragus, the Timeless. Dragus actually is pretty neato. During skip your next draw phase. Also draw 2 cards and discard 1. Activates your Dark World cards. Gives you draw power. You actually run this over running you actually run Dragus over running Reckless Greed, because Dragus is more active. You can activate it whenever, or not activate it whenever, but you can activate it right away, versus Reckless Greed, which lets you draw 2 cards, and you can only, and it skips both your draw phases with Dragus, or Draw Grass, or whatever. You only have to skip your one draw phase, and of course its other effects. Special summon one monster from your graveyard defense position. Skip your next main phase. So it's pretty good. It's a really good card, and it's flexible. Uh, Link monsters, Oppo. Yeah, it's Appaloosa. It is very easy with Dark World to get a fully stacked Oppo turn one, and you just kind of look at your opponent like, "Hey, baby, I got an Oppo on the field. Fuck you gonna do about it?" Smile. Needless to say, you really only need one. Nightmare Unicorn, Fiend Monster. Nightmare cards are crazy. I don't know what you want from me. These Nightmare cards are nuts, and they do business. They do absolute schwerk. And like I mentioned before, since you have a lot of since you have cards that you could throw away like Genta to discard for this effect, cash money. Same with Nightmare Phoenix. Pop a back row. If it's co-linked, you get a free draw. Cash money. Now, we're going to talk about a news reporter from the Underworld. Quite literally, the best card in this extra deck. Yeah, you'd be like, well, what about Grapha? Nah, dog. News reporter from the Underworld is the best card in this extra deck. The best. Don't let anyone ever lie to you and say that it's not. 2 effect monsters, right? 2 whole effect monsters is all you need for this card, which is stupid. But hey, I don't make the rules. I just play the game. You cannot use this card as link material the turn that this card is link summon. Thank God. If a monster you control will be destroyed by battle or a card effect, you can tribute 1 fiend instead. Extra layer of protection. Gas. You can target 1 fiend monster in your graveyard except News Reporter from the Underworld. You cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except fiend monsters. Also, discard a card. And if you do, special summon the targeted monster. Yeah, no. This being able to, like, Tour Guide Sisters definitely got the glow up. On top of protecting your monsters just by tributing a fiend monster instead, nuts. Absolutely busted. If you have a co-link with Nightmare Phoenix, this can't be destroyed. Can't be destroyed by battle. You're gonna use the co-link monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle. Fucking disgusting. If a monster will be destroyed by card effect, you'd be like, nah, I'm good. And you can target any one of your fiend monsters in the graveyard and just special summon it. At the cost of what? Discarding a card. And it activates your Dark World cards. So, smile. Everyone's watching. And last but not least, we'll just go right into the extra deck. 2 rocks. Rocks are great. If you're not running Nib, you getting high as a kite. Always run the rock. Rock God Hands. Droll Lockbird, another great card. We talked about this in the Ash. Said that before. Honorable mentions, Dark World Lightning. I think you should just run a Dark World Lightning. Just because people aren't really running that much back row. Anyway, it's very specific. Like Edelich. I mean, they're gonna set like what are they gonna set? Imperm and all that. This card is really just for Imperm to get rid of, because you can just opening turn activate Dark World Lightning, pop the Imperm, and since it can't activate its effect, since you can't activate Imperm because there's no face-up monster on the field, you don't really care. That's why I only run 1 Dark World Lightning, and since it's searchable, I don't really have to worry about it. Because the reason why Dark World Lightning isn't as good is because it has to target 1 set card on. You can also destroy set monsters as well, but it's mainly for clearing back row. So yeah, it's always safe to have 1, but you don't really need them. Along Harpy's Feather Duster, back row clear. What can I say? Regeki, yo, this card's busted. This card's busted. You bait out negates, and you are home free. Regeki is the GOAT. We talked about Dark World Puppet before, and why I have it in the side deck versus main. Good game 2, game 3 card. Very very potent. Super Poly. Super Poly, Starving Venom, Garu, all that shit. Anti-spell fragrance. Yeah, you use a lot of spell cards, but who cares if you can just stop your opponent from playing the video game? Smile. Everyone's watching. Yeah, that's why I have two of them there. And, of course, last but not least, a second skill drain, because, you know, can never have too much skill drain in this deck. Honorable mentions. Honorable mentions for this deck. This is like the original test version that I have. Call of the Archfiend. This card is goated. This card is honestly really goated and should be used because you get your bonus off discarding and you get to just special summon your free monster from the graveyard. Eradication, Epidemic Virus, Card Crush Virus, also good. Archfiend's Ghastly Glitch, also very good in this deck. I used to run it with Archfiend Eris, which was very potent, and Dark Seal. It's a random card, but you know, sounds great. But that's pretty much it. That is pretty much it for the Dark World deck. Let me know in the comments what you think. Things you'd personally add to this deck, but this is the version that I'm going to be running for a very long time. Oh, I actually forgot one more thing. Beta. Oh, there's a lot of. Let me see if I can find it. Damn, it's not here. Diabolica. Oh yes, Diabolica, the Dragon Fiend Commander, level 8, also very, very potent. Alright, so with this Diabolica card, if a fiend monster other than Diabolica, the Dragon Fiend Commander, is sent to the graveyard, you can special summon this card from your graveyard if it was there when the monster was sent, or hand, even if not, will banish it when it leaves the field. This card is sent to the graveyard, target one fiend monster in your graveyard, except Diabolica, the commander, and add it to your hand. So that's why I was saying that with this card, you can loop back Grapho to your hand. Yeah, no, you can just loop back Grapho to your hand. Also, if it special summons itself, you can just overlay it into an 8, and then since it's technically not on the field, you can ignore that card effect. So that's one of the honorable mentions. The other honorable mention with this deck, if you were really feeling scummy, is Mystic Mine. You can honestly Mystic. Oh, whoops. Reset. Mystic. Oh, there's a lot of Mystic Mine. I wouldn't implore anyone to play this, especially if it gets banned, but you can. Because what'll happen is, especially with Ceruli, Guru of the Dark World, it's another way for you to just turn off your opponent's board until you feel comfortable to just kill them. Because you can just lock them out with Cerulu, goes in match, can't play anything, and you can just destroy Mystic Mine with Gates of Dark World, and then just kind of just roll them. And they can't really do much about it because it can't activate monster effects if your opponent controls more monsters than you do. And if you control the same, you destroy this card directly in the face. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. This was a label. Like, I put a lot of effort into not just playing this deck, but make sure I went through everything specifically. So like I said, leave a comment if you want more deck profiles. I have some others in the studio that I'm willing to cook up. And really just have fun. I can't wait for this deck. I'm probably just going to main this deck for forever until the end of time. Sorry. Love this. I love Dark World. But that being said, I'll catch you guys in another video. Later.